Alright, so I have an apology to make to the 700 people who commented on my last Katakuri video. I was wrong.
I lost.
Shocker, I know. How could I ever be so incorrect? A YouTuber's opinions never change, but I am different, you see. I possess humility and am able to admit when I'm the one at fault. It only took me a year and a half, but I did it. Now, for the uninitiated, long time ago, I made a video about Charlotte Katakuri's strength, where I stated he is weaker than every Straw Hat and would get one shot by ulti or something. I was wrong, so today I'm going to debunk everything I said in that video, whilst also giving Katakuri his flowers. However, before we get into it, let me make my stance very fucking clear. Does Katakuri lose to characters like the Tobi Roppo or low tier Straw Hats? No, it's not even close, and when you look at all the actual context, it should have never been a claim in the first place. Simultaneously though, can Katakuri beat characters like Zoro or Sanji? No. He definitely hangs with them, but I had to make the thumbnail provocative. I'm sorry. In this video, I will show you why the answer lies somewhere in between. Charlotte Katakuri is not a bum who gets one shot by ulti, nor is he faster than every first commander. Before we go through his stats though, let me get 3 bullshit arguments out of the way. 1. Katakuri can see the future. How do you counter that? Clearly, you haven't read past Whole Cake. The second ever interaction between Luffy and Kaido is Kaido outspeeding Future Sight. Luffy himself states his attack was too fast even while reading the future. Also, think about it like this. If a snail saw the timeline of you crushing it, does that mean it will instantly dodge out of the way? Obviously not, because you are far faster. Future Sight will only help to a certain extent, but this leads me into point number 2. How are you going to use Luffy as a comparison when Katakuri was way above him? Bullshit. If you want to say Cap beat Luffy, that's fine. I don't care. But you can't say it was by any more than an inch. People who claim this completely ignore moments such as Katakuri praising Luffy multiple times, calling him a true threat, Katakuri stating Luffy sees the same future he does, Bounce Man completely overpowers Cat, Cat stating Luffy is his equal, which doesn't fully refer to strength, but regardless. Not to mention, Luffy was the one taking the vast majority of hits throughout the fight, yet they still stalemated. And for those who are about to say, Cat obviously weakened himself, you idiot. The only reason Cat stabbed himself was due to an unfair wound on Luffy. The reason for the unfair wound was because of Flampe's interference, which Katakuri didn't want. If Flampe was never there, the fight would have gone the exact same. I find it crazy how people meat ride this character so much, yet don't even analyze the moments making him good. They just like how cool he looks. So basically, this version of Luffy is a fair comparison when measuring Katakuri's strength to other characters. In fact, he's the only measuring stick we have because Cat has no feats outside of Whole Cake Island. Now you may ask why I'm highlighting this version of Luffy specifically, which leads me to point 3. Snake Man Luffy was outspeeding Hybrid Kaido, and Katakuri fought Snake Man. Okay, shut up. Not a common argument, though. For the 3 idiots who are going to spout this, the version of Snake Man that fought Katakuri is different from the one against Kaido. It is far slower. Luffy not only gets quicker from training in Udon, but then exponentially faster when he awakens Advanced Conquerors, then even faster when he gets Sky-Splitting Conquerors Haki. Again, this isn't a common argument because most people know how to read and it's pretty obvious, but this is the anime community, so yeah, we got some slow ones among us. With the bullshit out of the way now, we can get into Cat's actual scaling. Unlike my other vids, I'm not going to talk about him overall, rather each of his stats individually, because he really is a complex fighter. I'll start on Cat's best attribute, speed. I am speed. In terms of base agility without Future Sight, Katakuri was only able to react to the same Bound Man Luffy that clapped Doflamingo. I stress again, without Future Sight, because as soon as it turns back on, he catches Gear 4 Luffy, destroying him easily. I really need to stress how much of an amp Future Vision is, because without it, Katakuri was getting pummeled by base and Gear 4 Luffy. This was at the beginning of their fight, by the way. For more reference, Future Sight took base Luffy from getting clapped completely to performing better than his previous Gear 4 did, which means yes, base Luffy right here is unironically faster than Doflamingo plus anyone before. That's how big of a difference it makes combined with the user's regular speed. Now, where does it put Katakuri? After Whole Cake, Luffy went to Wano and was deleted by Kaido. It's important to mention, at that moment in Curry Town, Luffy was most likely not using Future Sight. It's explained multiple times users of observation haki must be calm in order to wield it. Luffy was definitely not calm at the moment, as he had seemingly watched his whole crew die. In fact, that's the main reason he engaged Kaido. He gets one shot here, but then trains in Udon prison, and it wasn't just armament haki practice. Luffy physically trained for 3 days with sea stone cuffs weakening him before ever trying to learn advanced armaments. He even states the whole reason for doing all the prison work is to become physically greater, which includes speed. In essence, base Rooftop Luffy is overall greater than base Whole Cake Island Luffy. Then once meeting Kaido again, he dodges the same attack he was deleted with by using Future Sight. This is where the whole ulti agenda spawns from, because if Luffy was using FS the first time around, then that would mean base Luffy during the raid is above his best form in Whole Cake Island. Then ulti scales to base Luffy, meaning she one-shots Katakuri, but no. As I already explained, Luffy wasn't using Future Sight against Kaido the first time around. If he was, he would have performed better. The outcome remains the same, but still. Simultaneously, Luffy did get overall stronger with his training, meaning Cat doesn't fully scale to him anymore. All of this to say that in terms of just speed, with Future Sight, Katakuri should still be on the level of the Rooftop 5. He's faster than base Luffy on the rooftop, though not quicker than Gear 4. Even if he is, Cat is still slower than any character with advanced conquerors, and again, this is his max speed. Katakuri is on the same speed tier as someone like King, but when they fight, Future Vision is what's getting him to that level, so it's not giving him a pro in any other way. It's what's allowing him to keep up with King, not predict all of his moves or some shit like that. Now it gets bad when looking into Cat's other stats. Strength. Oh god, you may expect me to go straight to Wano for durability negation, but hold that thought, because streets say Katakuri is equal to the same Luffy who made Big Mom block with armament haki. No, he isn't. It's a very easy assumption to make. I'm not too surprised, so let me explain. After Luffy interrupts his snack time and Cat's true face is revealed, he goes berserk, activating his strongest haki, Edged Mochi, yet in turn loses concentration, ergo Future Sight. This is what allows Luffy to hit Cat for the first time, but he gets destroyed by Edged Mochi. However, Luffy also gets to activate Gear 4, which completely bodies Katakuri. Even while blocking, with his strongest haki mind you, he is utterly overtaken. This happens multiple times, it's never contested, there's no clashes, and hell, Luffy's haki is compared to what it was before when he was the one getting overpowered. It is not until FS is reactivated that Cat gets the upper hand again. Then he agrees with Luffy, admitting Future Vision is what makes him seem invincible. So basically, Katakuri doesn't scale to his supposed best feat. He only scales to Snake Man Luffy, which obviously does not have the attack power of Bound Man. Well, Katakuri got stronger in their fight. Yeah, Luffy did too, meaning it's the same outcome either way. Now we can get into Wano. In simple terms, the same Luffy who beat Katakuri could not do any damage to Kaido at all, didn't even draw blood. But we see during the raid, the individual scabbards do better harm than this. Then everybody in Wano above the scabbards can do more. It's only because they have advanced armament haki. Okay, sure, Katakuri is only fast because of advanced observation, it goes both ways. Plus, there are characters without durability negation, like Sanji or Queen, still scaling above the scabbards. One thing I do have to mention though is his spear. Cat owns a trident named Mole, making his attacks extra lethal. Now that applies to any character who wields a sharp object. He can't coat this spear, meaning it's easily defended with armament haki, which is probably why he stopped using it on Luffy. Regardless, this spear combined with his speed could be very deadly. So in summary, for attack potency, Katakuri is far worse than the Bound Man Luffy, that is far worse than any of the scabbards. He owns a trident, making him more lethal, but in terms of his actual attack power, he's deadass like Tobi Roppo level. And it only gets worse when we examine the third category, Endurance. This is notoriously touted as Cat's worst stat for very good reason. Again, it just goes back to what I said earlier. Katakuri is getting hurt by attacks weaker than anything in Wano. He beats up a person worse than him for 12 hours straight, yet still loses. With less hits taken, mind you. There's no stamina feats for him either, as every One Piece character has good stamina. Ace and Jinbei fought for 5 days, the Admirals for 10. Luffy fought Cracker for 11 hours, 12 hours before fighting Katakuri, and beat both of them. For endurance though, I think the easiest path of understanding is to compare Cat to King again. Katakuri gets hurt by a punch from base Luffy, who is below Whole Cake Bound Man Luffy, who is below any of the scabbards, who are below base Rooftop Luffy, who is below Rooftop Bound Man Luffy, who is below King of Hell Zoro, the guy King can tank attacks from without special durability. Are we serious right now? Yes, King lost to Zoro in 3 hits, but that shouldn't fucking matter as the level of difference I just described is immense. Also, I didn't know where to throw this in, but Katakuri has an awakened paramecia power, which allows him to turn objects and terrain into mochi. The thing is, people hype this up as being some insane ability that allows him to shift the environment, but in his fight with Luffy, it's never portrayed as some serious game changer. Even when Luffy is in base and can't fly, Cat's awakening abilities don't really change anything. So with all the info we have about his stats, where does Katakuri scale? Well, speed is the Mochi Man's best attribute, as he's up there with the likes of the Rooftop 5. By extension, Marco, King, Queen, Base Sanji, etc. Now his attack power is nowhere near those characters, and he probably can't even damage them. However, with his trident, he has a better chance of doing so, plus combined with the speed, Cat could probably blitz / one-shot all of the scabbards. Yes, they have better endurance than him, but endurance doesn't matter with a spear through your chest. Speaking of endurance though, ass. Sanji, Queen, King, all mentioned at least 3 tap Katakuri. That's being generous, and don't even get me started on anyone with advanced conquerors, cause it's not even close. Cat is for sure the weakest first commander, but it all plays into his narrative. He specializes in speed / future sight to seem like the most untouchable, perfect warrior. He did so for his family, though in reality, Cat's just compensating for the fact that he isn't perfect like everyone else. He's not good at giving damage or taking hits. This is his entire arc during the Luffy fight, and by the end of it, he comes to terms with that, which is part of the many reasons Luffy vs. Cat is the best fight in the series, but nah, I'm a Katakuri hater, I can't say that. There are 2 main counter arguments I must cover though. This time they're not stupid, but they are wrong nonetheless. The first being, Perospero is equal to Jack, which means Cracker is equal to Queen and blah 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 blah. I liken this stance to the ulti over Katakuri thing, where people take one fight at complete face value without analyzing any context. So is Perospero equal to Jack? No. At the start of the raid, they both fight minks. Peros barely beats 2, whereas Jack battles an entire army of them. Yes, Jack had his own legion, but it is clearly shown he is the last one standing, as he one-shots 6 minks in a row. Peros defeated weaker minks than Jack fought, and the main reason he won is because they ran out of Sulong transformation. Then we can go on to the middle of the raid, where it took the 2 strongest minks to defeat a weakened Jack, which is the only time Kaido stepped in, by the way, whereas Perospero shoots arrows that barely hurt Chopper. Yes, Chopper's a big boy, but these arrows are his size, yet he still fights Queen like they're not even on him. Next is their final act in the raid, where Peros beats Nekomamushi in quotations. I already gave examples about why he and Jack aren't equal, so I really don't have to speak on this, especially since everyone in this fight is heavily fatigued besides Peros. However, since we never see the fight, it's most likely Nekomamushi was immobile after running out of Sulong, as that's exactly what happened to Inarashi, his equal, plus most other minks when they de-transform. Perospero just took advantage of that, whereas Jack couldn't due to him being too fatigued. Even if this is a feat for Peros, it barely matters as he's fighting Nekomamushi after he already transformed, was beaten to a pulp by Kaido, transformed again, then ran out due to the moon. Then people portray this last panel as 2 equal opponents being beaten equally or whatever, without bringing up the fact that Perospero and Jack are just the 2 biggest enemies of the minks. Why do you think they fight them for the entire raid? Peros, the murderer of Pedro, is beaten by Nekomamushi, Pedro's leader. The outside scaling supports all this too. Peros is most likely not better than Doflamingo, who Kaido considers weak, yet calls Jack strong. So there it is, all of those points are silver bullets, and as I said before, Peros equaling Jack is a surface level argument. Extremely similar to the ulti versus Katakuri situation, but in that case, people were dealing with a fan favorite, so they came up with hordes of evidence as to why Katakuri wins without even considering the other option. I digress. The other argument I have to look at is like a narrative perspective. I already covered why Cat being the strongest perfect warrior is fraudulent, because he himself admits that he's a fraud. The other thing I can see is like the first commander level perspective. However, we're told multiple times different Yonko crews have different strengths. Also, Mihawk is a first commander. Aokiji is a 10th commander. Many think Sanji is first commander level, even though he's a second commander, which by their own logic makes no sense. The last thing I'll go over is, you're just trying to cover for your own agenda, but seriously, bring me a good attack power or endurance feat Katakuri has. I would love to hear it. Also, let me leave you guys with this. Katakuri and multiple other Charlotte siblings state that the entirety of their crew cannot stop a weakened Big Mom from destroying her nation. Cat, Smoothie, 70 other Big Mom officers, plus tens of thousands of troops don't even try to touch her. However, in Wano, we have the Toby Roppo surviving Big Mom's strongest attacks. Weaker Straw Hats successfully combo her. 9 Scabbards fight/damage Kaido. Queen by himself is confident enough to at least sneak attack Big Mom, then actually does damage to her. Every character mentioned has observation haki. They know who they're up against, yet Cat is scared of fighting Big Mom with his entire crew behind him. I can go into the rooftop 5, but you get the idea. Katakuri is an extremely powerful fighter, don't get me wrong. Though in comparison to the higher tiers of Wano or the final saga, he's been left in the dust.